Hello, I'm Dr. Pierre Simon, and it's great being back with you. We're talking about unmasking addiction, relapse prevention. We've been in this series, and I hope you've been enjoying it. There's always so much to talk about in this area. Unmasking relapse prevention is the category we're in today. Understanding addiction relapse triggers. You know, those things that keep bringing you backwards instead of going forwards. You know, in church we might say backsliding. Well, in addiction, it would be relapsing. Understanding addiction relapse triggers is indeed crucial in preventing relapse from occurring or reoccurring. As I said the last time, I believe the statistics are 7 to 9 times people go back into treatment, back into recovery before they hit that final recovery, and that's the average. So some people might be the first time, other people may take longer, but that's the average. So most people that go into recovery or treatment programs have already been in them at some point, whether it's been just a short time or a longer time, and they're having to go back through it because they hit some of those triggers, those relapse triggers that we're going to be identifying, and next time we'll be getting into more detail on them. So we have to be up for the challenge. If you're dealing with addictions and you're in recovery, are you up to that challenge to get going and avoid those relapse issues? When we're talking about relapse, we're referring to a return to substance abuse or addictive behaviors after abstinence or while you're in recovery. Recovery is a lifetime journey for those dealing with addictions. So it's not just a brief period of time, it's the entire life. And they have to look at it that way. If they don't look at it that way, then they're setting themselves up for failure. They're setting themselves up for a relapse because you build that overconfidence, and we'll be talking about that. Recovery can be a challenging and disheartening experience for individuals seeking to overcome that problem, that difficulty, that weakness in their life. And believe me, everybody has weaknesses. You know, some people, I eat too much, you know, so I'm always constantly having to watch what I eat, make sure I don't eat too much. Other people, it might be working too much, or it might be playing too much, or something else. Everybody has weaknesses. And we want to identify what they are and try to balance them as best we can so that the weaknesses don't control us. And unfortunately, with addiction, that weakness of addiction, whether it's substances or behaviors, will take over your life and damage your life, damage your relationships because it's so severe. It can be that severe. Individuals can enhance their chances of maintaining long-term recovery or lifetime recovery by identifying and addressing those relapse triggers. Here are some addiction relapse triggers that we commonly see, and these are in general, and we'll be more specific the next time. High risk situations is an obvious one. You know, it's wherever there's a lot of stress, you know, those high risk situations, certainly there's that danger sign that you have to wave in front of your mind and say, danger, danger. I remember that movie years ago, science fiction movie where, what was it, Lost in Space, I believe it was called, and the robot, danger, danger. There's certain high risk situations that increase the chances of a relapse in everybody's journey. It's important to be aware of each of those situations for you, because you're different than someone else. Their situation may be such that certain things are triggers for them, but not for you. Just because you can not be tempted by their triggers, don't think that you don't have triggers. It's important to be aware of these situations and take necessary precautions to avoid them. So we want to stay away from those things. Now, I have a head cold. I'm getting over my head cold. And when I don't feel good, I tend to want to eat. So I have, that's my weakness. So I have to say, no, that's my weakness. Don't go to the refrigerator to try to feel better. Do something else, and we'll talk about some of those things in a little bit. But do something else. Do something positive. Don't do something destructive or something that you know is a weakness that can cause more problems. I don't want to gain weight, so we don't want to cause that problem because trying to eat to feel better, or for you it might be drinking or drugging or playing or whatever. Some of these high-risk situations include being in the presence of substances, so hey, that's the obvious one. Stay away from that stuff if you're in recovery. Stay away from the people that associate with that stuff. Being around people who use drugs or engage in active behaviors is going to be self-destructive for you. And you get so many people, they say, well, that's my best friend, or I don't have other friends, or I don't know anybody else. Start finding other people. Go to the places where you can make new friends. So that might be church, it might be a group, a support group, and certainly one thing in addictions with the addiction support groups, they tell you in the groups, don't go dating somebody in the group, because you've got the same problems, and the same temptations are going to be there, and it's going to be harder for you to say no when the other one is getting weak, and so one thing leads to another. Yeah, you can associate because you're doing a group together, but start finding those healthy friends that don't have those kinds of problems, those similar problems, so they can bring you up. They can lift you up. When I was younger, I played a lot of tennis, and I really enjoyed tennis. And one thing that everyone would say in playing tennis was you always wanted to play with someone who's better, because it forced you to be better. It helped make you better. And so I always enjoyed playing with the tennis players that were on a higher level of tennis than I was at. I'm sure they didn't enjoy playing with me, so you didn't want to have too much of a big difference, because then they don't want to play with you. But still, you want to play with somebody who's just a little better, because they're bringing you up. Play with someone who's not better, who's way less, you might say, not as good, but now you got to really slow down, and that's not enjoyable. You can do it a little bit because you're wanting to encourage that person or help that person along, but then the next game you want someone that's challenging. Otherwise, they bring you down. Drugs addiction, behavioral addictions, no different. They'll bring you down to their level. If you're entertaining yourself with them, eventually you get dragged down. Be with people that are at a higher level of behavior so they can lift you up. And that's what Christianity is all about, isn't it? Walking that walk each day, trying to attain better behavior, better thinking, a higher level of spirituality. As you're doing that, you're being lifted up. And we've been talking about that, and we'll keep talking about that and encouraging you. So visit places associated with good things that are going to lift you up, not the bar, not the nightclub, not the restaurant with the favorite bar in it. Avoid those places. Go to those places where it's healthier for you. It's crucial to stay away from such environments and seek support from your loved ones and those professionals, those individuals who are leaders in the field, counselors and so on, your church pastor, that can be helpful. Emotional triggers certainly are a big thing, and that's a broad area, but hey, if I feel down, I'm still grieving the loss of my wife, with her being in heaven. I'll tear up talking about it. It's almost 2 years. It's an emotional trigger. And if I'm grieving, what do I want to do? I want to feel better. I want to get over it. Well, I'll go to the refrigerator, or whatever. No, can't do that. All right, I got to face it. Got to think about it. Give myself 5 minutes to grieve, or say, okay, tonight at 8 o'clock, I'm going to grieve for a half hour. I'm going to let myself do that, because now I have to focus on the present. I have to handle the things that are going on now. I have to maintain that self-control at the moment, but I'll let myself grieve later. It's okay to say that to yourself. Now, you're not going to say, I'll let myself gamble later. You're going to say, I'll let myself work on this, do a journal, or do some things that are going to be helpful a little later. And we're going to talk about some of that a little later in this session today. As individuals, we may experience a variety of emotional states such as stress, anxiety, depression, anger, loneliness, the list can go on, even boredom, which can excite the urge to turn to substances or behaviors for coping. Social pressure is another pressure that's a general thing that occurs. You walk out the door, you're dealing with social pressure at some point. Social pressure refers to the influence of peers, acquaintances, family members who continue to engage in addictive behaviors that can have or represent major triggers for you. So stay away from those individuals that present that social pressure. You may have a coworker who has difficulty with drinking, let's say, and at lunch they like to go and they like to have a few drinks, and they want you to go eat with them. Okay, that one you want to stay away from, and then find someone who wants to go to lunch without the drinking. That's social pressure. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't even mean they have an addiction problem with alcohol, but it does mean the temptation is going to be there. It's going to weaken you over time. So we want to move forward, not backwards, in recovery. It's crucial to create a strong, supportive group of individuals who are wholeheartedly dedicated to the process of recovery. So you want people that support, that encourage, that help keep you going forward, not even staying in one place. Because you stay in one place, eventually you're going to go backwards. You want to keep growing. Parents may have to help their teenagers develop new social groups, and that's a tough one for teenagers and parents. Teenagers, they have their friends. They don't want to give up those friends. But if they're unhealthy friends, somehow, some way, the parents are going to have to motivate their teenagers to change the friends, change the groups. And that might mean the parents are going to have to get a little more involved with activities, outside activities, doing things like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or healthier adolescent groups like church groups, youth groups at church, or other types of activities where they have more of an opportunity to meet new friends that might be healthier, in helping them to engage with those new groups of people, and then they can do it on their own. But you may have to lead the way for them. Overconfidence is a big one in recovery. That is a general trigger, and I say that one probably, besides associating with others that are still in their addictions, overconfidence is probably the one I see the most, besides the other. I can do this. They're smart. They might be intelligent. They may think they can think through it, and they got control of it. And boy, as soon as I start seeing someone who's saying they're confident, they can do it, and they can just do a little bit, or I can play a lottery. That's all right. I can do one lottery. I got a system, or I can gamble. I got a system, so I know when to stop or this. When you start hearing that stuff, okay, relapse is coming, and it always does. So it's no, you can't do it at all. And of course they don't want to hear that, but when they've gone through recovery maybe 9 times, then they hit that final bottom and they say, okay, yeah, that's not working. I'm just not going to do that anymore. So experiencing an exaggerated sense of self-esteem, of being able to do things on your own, being able to feel like you can handle it, no, that's not so hot. So kind of don't be so contented with yourself regarding one's recuperation. That can result in decreasing your attentiveness or your focus on your recovery. Overconfidence precedes carelessness. Such a mentality might lead people to assume they can indulge in drugs or behaviors with no repercussions, eventually leading to regression. This illustrates the significance of remaining vigilant and grounded, keep both feet on the ground, to avoid the pitfalls of overconfidence. Negative or distorted thinking patterns also is a broad area that's often seen as a trigger in relapse. Unproductive thoughts, wasting time, in other words. Those unproductive thoughts is an unproductive thought. And you get a lot of individuals who have turned to their addictions to escape their worries, their concerns, their fears. Those are unproductive thoughts. They're also a lack of confidence that you're not going to get through whatever it is you're worried about. It's an impractical conviction that occurs, or distorted thought process that impedes your rehabilitation, your recovery, those efforts that you make. Worry isn't going to change things. Concern, yeah, I have a concern about making enough money this month to pay the bills on time. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about it though. I'm going to give it to God and say, hey, I'm going to do the best I can. If you can send some extra help my way, if you can send extra donations into the ministry to keep us going, or to help me to see more people who can't give any donations, I need that, Lord. I'm trusting in you for it, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and keep moving ahead. I'm not going to sit there and worry about it, because when I do that, what's it going to do? It's going to make me sick. It's going to bring me down, and it's going to tend to want me to escape to feel better, right? You're no different. None of us are any different. It's going to tend to want us to escape to feel better, and different escapes will be different for each folk. So typical illustrations comprise, I've already ruined everything, I might as well keep using, or I can control it. Now, just stay away from those unproductive thoughts. Celebratory or triggering events, we just recently had a holiday. Typically, I get the Monday after a holiday, those individuals that relapsed, or those individuals that had tough times, a lot of stress over the holiday because of family or whatever. And I'll hear about it the first of the week, and we'll deal with those things. Most of the time, my clients call me on the cell phone or text me, because I'll instruct them to do that. If something's coming up on the holiday, don't be afraid. Let me know. We'll talk about it. I'll get you through it, so you don't escape or turn to those destructive behaviors that are going to be probably long-lasting until you get back into feeling better and doing better. In regards to substance abuse, certain events such as special occasions, celebrations, holidays, or significant life moments can potentially trigger a relapse. Are you stupid around people? If you are, you know what I meant just then. So don't be stupid around people. These events frequently include social gatherings where substances may be easily acceptable, and the urge to celebrate or deal with emotions can pose a relapse hazard. Some people, when they're around other people, they just kind of lose control. They just kind of get very impulsive, and they can be very emotional sometimes, and they just do things they wouldn't normally do because they're around people. And when they're alone, they don't have a problem, but they get stupid around people. It's important to be mindful of these risks and take necessary precautions to maintain sobriety during such occasions. Physical discomfort or pain. With my head cold, I'm uncomfortable, so what can I do to feel better? And as I said earlier, I'm not going to go to the refrigerator because that's a weakness. So I'm going to think, what else can I do? And we'll talk about that. Feelings of physical unease or agony. Undergoing chronic pain, that's a big one nowadays. Physical discomfort or sickness has the potential to trigger relapse. One may feel compelled to resort to substances to alleviate their discomfort or avoid suffering. It's important to remind yourself you're not alone. As a Christian counselor, I believe that turning to God and His Word can be a powerful tool for managing emotional feelings. Reading the Bible is a wonderful tool. Praying is another wonderful tool. I'm talking to God constantly through the day. I experience His presence in my communicating with Him throughout the day. I'm driving and someone pulls out in front of me, and I may impulsively honk the horn or have some negative thoughts right away. Oh, I'm sorry, Lord. I did it again. All right, I'm not going to think that. I'm not going to say that. I forgive that person, and it settles me right down quickly. Well, when you do that, it just becomes automatic over time. So reading the Bible, praying, seeking guidance from Christian leaders can provide comfort and support during difficult times. With the right support tools, you can overcome these challenges and lead a healthier, fulfilling life. Request the how to feel better in less than 12 minutes from me. I'll post this on my Facebook page, so you can friend me on Facebook, and anytime I have postings on there, you can see those postings. I'll go ahead and post this so you can see it, but briefly, how to feel better in less than 12 minutes. Let me pull it up here, and I'll give you a quick run through. It's a 12-minute exercise to do, and it works. And of course, it's not. If you need more help, you're going to need to get more help. But take a deep breath for 2 minutes. 2 minutes, just deep, steady breaths. Start doing deep breathing, and it helps you to get used to it, but it also helps to calm you quickly. Deep breaths can help you settle down and ease the stress in your body. Hydrate for 1 minute. So get a glass of water and take a minute to drink that glass of water. Maybe you have Gatorade is great, or something that's good for you, and try not to drink those sugary drinks if you can. Take 3 minutes and do a mini stretch, a mini body workout, for 3 minutes. You could just sit there and just flap your arms around, or do some twisting, do some arm raising, or stretching. Whatever works for you, just take 3 minutes in doing that, and that releases the endorphins, which helps lift your mood. Just smiling increases endorphins. The muscles in the face will secrete endorphins, the feel-good chemicals, just by smiling. So laughing is important. Gratitude for 2 minutes then. So that's 3 minutes, the mind thing, and then I just kind of skipped ahead, gratitude. So write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Take 2 minutes in doing that. Research shows that practicing gratitude can greatly improve your mood and overall happiness. Then take 2 minutes for mindful biblical meditation. We've talked about meditation in the past and how I don't agree with the blank slate stuff because it opens other doors that are not healthy. So think on something specific in your biblical meditation by taking time to reflect on a specific Bible verse, centering your attention on your breath and releasing any extraneous thoughts. Direct your focus solely on the message God intends for you. As you're thinking of that Bible verse, what does it mean for you at the moment? And what impressions are coming through your mind regarding that? Taking 2 minutes to do that. You don't have to take a long time. Then take another minute for positive affirmations. So the positive affirmation, look in the mirror for a minute. I am a child of God. I am loved by God. I'm loved by my family. Whatever you can think of that's positive about yourself, say it to yourself in the mirror just for a minute. You don't have to take hours in doing that. You can read, you can write it down and read from it, but look at yourself in the mirror as you're doing that for 1 minute. I have a spiritual warfare packet, and in that packet I have a listing of I ams in there. You can request that for free. I'm happy to send it to you. Laugh for a minute. So that makes up 12 minutes. Laughing, as I said earlier, with the muscles, the endorphins secreting the happy feelings. When you're doing those things on a daily practice, it has lasting solutions, and it's a quick way to get through that difficult moment you might be having and move on to other things that are good. So check in my Facebook page, and I'll post this afternoon on there. Yeah, moving on then, in what we're talking about, let's kind of talk about what that biblical step 11 might be if we were to look at it from a biblical perspective. Biblical step 11 might say, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts, and that's substance abusers or behavioral abusers, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The 11th step entails enhancing our communion with God, promoting the development of new health-giving neural pathways. The brain, when you're thinking good thoughts, allows the neural pathways to stretch out, to extend, so more of them are extending, more knuckles are getting produced where memory is enhancing, more connections are occurring. All of that good stuff is going on when we're communing with God, when we're thinking those good thoughts and developing healthy pathways, which increases brain cells as well. And that keeps us out of the basement of the brain, as I've spoken of before, where your negative thinking, your fear thinking resides down there in the lower part of the brain. The limbic system, or fight or flight center, is located. So health-giving neural pathways that eventually rewire your neurological framework over a prolonged period of time. Thinking good thoughts helps you rewire your thinking in healthy ways. Thinking bad thoughts are going to rewire your thinking in unhealthy ways. We want to stay healthy. What does the Bible say about this? Well, the Bible says those who live with the selfish nature in charge have their minds bent on self-indulgence and selfish pursuits. But those who live in harmony with the Spirit of truth, that's the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of truth, and love, have their minds focused on living in harmony with God's principles of truth, love, and liberty. Remember, we've spoken in the past about God's characters basically made up of truth, love, and liberty. The scripture goes on to say the mind of the selfish person is in the basement of the brain. Self-protection, that's selfishness. Whenever you get self-protective, you're going to be selfish. You're going to think of yourself first, protecting self. It's okay to be down there when there's a threat going on and you have to deal with it. Somebody pulls out in front of you in the car and you got to hit the brakes fast. You got to jump down there real quick, and the adrenaline's got to pump so you can act quickly and do what you need to do. But you don't want to dwell down there. Dwelling down there generates fear, self-protection, apprehension, worry, anger, bitterness, and all those other bad things. So that makes us selfish when we're dwelling. So selfish people, right away you can tell they're dwelling in the basement of their brain. They're not up there in the upper room where the good thinking is located. The mind of the selfish person, the scripture goes on to say, is filled with death. But the mind governed by the principles of the Spirit of truth and love is filled with life and peace. You can find that in Romans chapter 11, verses 5 to 6. I'm reading from the Remedy Bible, which is a paraphrase. Well, I hope this was helpful for you. We're going to get into a little more specifics next time as we talk about identifying 10 indicators that may compromise your journey through recovery. May your troubles be more minor, blessings more, and happiness come through your door. We'll see you next time. God bless you.